The Australian Ultimate League is only possible thanks to the generous support of our major partners. Bendigo Private Banking Services. Visit their website bendigoprivate.com.au to help you manage all your personal or business banking needs. Discraft. The leaders in flying discs for over 25 years. Their Ultrastar is the preferred disc of all World Championship events and the Australian Ultimate League. And Zone Ultimate Custom Sports Apparel. Check out their new range of custom warm-up jackets and pants at zoneultimate.com.
Hello, it's AUL time and it is the last game of the league. I'm Claire Hussey and Joy Lee is here with me to talk you through this game between Brisbane Breakers and the Sydney Suns. With Melbourne Flames already waiting in the final, the winner of this game earns a place in the grand final and a chance to win the AUL Cup. Joy, what are you feeling going into this game?
Thanks, Huss. I'm so excited to see these two teams match up. They're very evenly matched with only one loss each, so it's all to play for here in the final game. Both teams are star-studded, lots of strengths, and it will be so interesting to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, let's have a look at what the coaches think going into this game.
I'm joined by Amanda, coach of the Brisbane Breakers. You've got an important game coming up against the Sydney Suns. How are you going to approach the game?
Just play by the system, really play smart, and really appreciate every catch and make the right decision when it comes to throwing. Yeah, because the Sydney players are really good and they're really strong, and if we make a mistakes when it comes to throwing, they will really take advantage of that and really get a deep from it. Yeah.
Now they've got a couple of decent offensive threats, especially with this win that's been forecasted. How are you going to deal with the Tom Tullett backhand to Rosie Dawson running long?
We try to get Tom Tullett away from the disc, and also just push Rosie under. But that doesn't mean we're gonna, we're gonna play hard D as well. Even if we're forcing Tullett deep, he's also a really good receiver. Mm-hmm. So we need to really again play smartly and really with high intensity when it comes to defense. And I really trust my team that they will do that. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a great game, and wish you all the best out there.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm joined here by Kylie, coach of the Sydney Suns. Hey, you've got a game coming up against the Brisbane Breakers. Every game's an important game at this tournament, but two very evenly matched teams. How are you going to get across the line?
It's going to be a big game, and I think we're pretty evenly matched in a lot of areas. I think it's going to take... We've got a couple of little sneaky things up our sleeve that we're going to try that we haven't tried before. So.
Can you let us in on that now, or is this for game only?
Look, game only, but a little bit of junk that we haven't played before that we're going to try and just see how that plays out based on some of the intel we've got on how Brisbane's been playing so far.
Okay, you've been doing your research, and look, you've got a fantastic team, lots of big names in it. How do you, as the coach, go with the team dynamics and getting people to play to their potential?
I mean, it's a pretty good problem to have, right? Having a team of superstars playing. Luckily for us, there's some good club connections in there already. A bunch of them have played together with Frisky, so there's some good sort of gender dynamics going on already. And to be honest, they're a pretty coachable team, which I was actually surprised about.
Fantastic. Well, it's going to be a cracking game. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Good luck.
This really is the game of the league so far. Both teams have only lost to the Melbourne Flames, which is why Brisbane is second on the table and Sydney are third on the table. Both teams have scored the same number. Sorry, both teams have had the same number of goals scored against them, and Brisbane have scored 2 more goals than Sydney have in this league, which is all that's setting them apart right now. So this is just going to be a massive battle. I mean, one team might feel more comfortable in in this weather, but really I'm hoping for a sudden death end to this game.
Definitely, sudden death ending would be all we could hope for, but really so much to look forward to here. Kylie O'Brien, the coach, or one of the coaches of the Sydney Suns, mentioned some sneaky stuff. I'm intrigued to see what that is, and she was mentioning potentially a new zone, something to pull out of the bag. Like, who knows, if a sneaky new zone can get you 1 or 2 points, that could be what brings a team over the line.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Breakers will get the disc away from Tulit. That was one of the plans that Wong mentioned there. It's a good idea. He has been throwing some incredible stuff into the crazy wind, as has Evans. But exactly how you can keep him away from the disc is the big question. Perhaps they will put some of their more speedy players. Maybe Wentworth will... Oh no, sorry, she's on the same team. Maybe Taylor will take Tulit and give him a run around. We'll see what surprises the Breakers can come out with to really give a bit of an upset on this in this game against some of the big throwers.
Yeah, it's always a real challenge, isn't it? Obviously, when there are some very dominant players on the opposing team, you do want to try and limit their influence on the game. The wind here, as with many games in the AUL, will kind of be like a 7th defender here, but that's a challenge that both teams will have to face. I do think that how each team deals with that challenge here will be part of the winning mix, potentially.
Yeah, Neil's just feeling out this wind, which is pretty stiff, bit blustery. It's going from bottom left of the screen now to top right of the screen as Mian fields a landing pull around her feet. McNaughton just overshoots in that difficult wind. McInnes and Sydney have got the disc straight back on the edge of the end zone. Dawson laying it off. And a sneak over the top from Thomas. And Neil scores the first goal within seconds of this game starting. Sydney are on the board and they've made their mark. They've started a break against a break.
Lovely clean goal there from Sydney. 1 block or turnover and goal. Sydney. The Suns are going to be super stoked with that. That was such a clean goal. And Mike kneeled in the end zone, always a good target. I think the Brisbane Breakers offense there, nice clean vertical stack. We saw a receiver make a nice strike deep. Again, that wind quite challenging and Sydney able to capitalise.
Yeah, McNaughton, he's kicking the stats charts. He's right up there, and he's got a lot of touches, a lot of disc is going through his hands. But of course that means that you'll end up with a few turnovers, a few throwaways. That one I think he'd be pretty disappointed with because it was a short throw, and he just let that front edge up, and the disc was just too hard to catch for McInnes. Second chance for Brisbane Breakers. The pull from Sydney goes out of bounds, and so they get a bit more of a chance from the brick mark as Copland brings the disc into play. Easy under. O'Neill. We've got a deep look, but it's squashed down by the wind.
Yeah, good pressure there from the Suns. They're coming down in match at this point so far, and that worked,
Yeah, it's rattled the Breakers. The Breakers have had, really no time with the disc in their hands. They've had maybe 3 throws so far, and it's not looking so good right now, but the Sydney Suns have to work this back into the wind. Let's see how they go with this difficult angle. And we've got a dugout stick from Evans, collected by Alexander, who has lofted another one. That same angle, beautifully picked up by Tulip. He whipped that out, and now he's thrown a fake to get his defender off. He's gone for the give and go, just gets the give. And in a round break, which didn't meet the receiver, and we've got a turnover for Sydney Suns. Vo picking up for the Brisbane Breakers. He's got 6 assists under his belt. Not sure if he'll get an assist from here unless he's got a huck on, but he's gone for the safe swing, but that wind is just so strong, it was just too hard even for Vo, who's such a consistent thrower. Suns move it quickly to Tulip. And Evans has had a clean drop.
If you take a look at the trees behind the play, you can see the force of the wind, and Tulip's backhand, their lovely touch on it wasn't completed, but any completed throws here is such a mission, such an achievement, mentally and physically.
Yeah, well, if any teams can adjust to this weather, then I would expect it to be these two teams who have got some incredible throwers. And Vo has maybe misread the intentions of his stack there. He just popped one over the top, and nobody moved for it at all. So I think that he must have had a miscommunication. Maybe the eyes were taken off by the wind as well. So really needs one of these teams to find a way through this wind and settle the game.
You can see here Vo marking Tulip, definitely trying to push him backwards if possible. So Tulip, they're getting the disc fairly easily, but didn't gain any ground, which was a tactic that we heard Wong, the coach, speak about earlier.
Oh yeah, and Kath O'Neill was jumping around on the mark a bit there, trying to put off Wentworth, and she has sailed one into space to nobody. And immediately, Breakers have failed to complete another swing pass, a simple swing pass. Meanwhile, Evans gets it and thinks, I'm just going to get this down the other end, but even that is too hard to complete as it sails off into the bushes.
This is pretty contrasting point, isn't it, Huss? From the first point, I do think that we'll see a number of longer points in this game. It's the nature of such challenging conditions, but yeah, I do wonder as well how much the ground gaining tactics of each team will be as the game wears on.
Yeah, it might have to go to that as the wind is really, really picking up here, and it's going to be just a challenge to complete one throw. Right there, we've got another turnover. Tulip just easily catching, and that was a nice block.
Knee block there.
Knee block from Spielman on Tulip's throw that he really was ready to make complete. So we've got not only the wind, but knees involved here too. This is quite the game. Brisbane's got another go at this. Oh, that was a nice option, but read well by Sydney and intercepted immediately, and unable to complete the next opportunity. I think we need to start seeing some shorter looks here from both teams. Anything over 5 metres is really not coming off at the moment. With that shot deep, however,
wow,
we've got a goal, and that will be quite the relief for the Brisbane Breakers. As Spielman found his flick, the lefty flick is the only way through this wind. Over the top of everybody, and Copland snagging it nicely.
So you saw the lovely touch on that throw, Spielman to Copland there in the end zone. Amazing touch, and Copland was able to just rise up gracefully, snag it with one hand. It's amazing how certain highlights like that can just punctuate several minutes of very difficult play, Huss. What can teams do to try and overcome these difficult conditions?
Like I was alluding to just before, I think with this wind, the only way through it is shorter throws, unless a player who's really comfortable with a particular throw with the particular wind, like we just saw with Spielman there. Unless we get into that situation, they can take that. But I think both teams are doing well to make space around the disc, and that will help with shorter throws. Getting people through nice and early from the handling area from behind the disc will help to create opportunities around the disc. I think that's the only way through this. And a big look to the end zone with a loopy flick is not completed.
John McNaughton there playing incognito with the bandana over his face, trying to warm up as much of his body as he can. Jogging to the disc now, ready to play some offense for the Brisbane Breakers.
This rain is lashing down, it's adding so much difficulty to every throw, every catch. If only the Breakers brought their beach towels with them, they could dry it off a bit, help them with these catches. And McNaughton's big faking backhand jab is picked up defensively by Dawson. It was a good look, it was a good effort. He got it as far as he could, and retaliation straight away is not completed as Thomas flicked a low one through the middle of the field. No one could get their hands on it.
Yeah, it is actually pretty nice, and you mentioned, Huss, before, the need to maybe shorten throws, but I really do like the way that both teams are attacking the deep space. I think not looking for the deep option when conditions are tough is a mistake that many teams fall into. They're still going for it. The previous puck by McNaughton was very close to being completed, just hung in the air perhaps just a fraction too long, and the defenders were able to catch up. So I think it's still a good tactic, keep the defenders honest. We're seeing a lot of match D here so far. You want your defenders to be afraid of you attacking that deep space.
Yep, Thomas goes for your recommendation straight away, but he didn't have the power behind that throw. So Brisbane get another chance back in the other direction, which it's just, it's like a game of tennis here right now.
Entertaining athletic tennis.
And there's a pick which gets the team a chance to reset and think about what's going to happen next. Parsons has got the disc in her hand, and she goes for the cheeky flick, which gets picked up by the wind and sails over the top. Time for another Breakers attempt. We've seen in previous games not only McNaughton around the disc a lot for the Breakers, but also Mian. She's dominating the stats. If anyone picks her on fantasy, then they will be doing very well. She gets so much of the disc, moves it around, scores a few goals, scores a few assists. She's really killing it. But in this wind, with every throw going to the other team, there's no chance for her to get on the disc at the moment.
Oh, cheeky little across the stack high backhand there from McNaughton. Simultaneous catch, maybe? Perhaps a D.
Yeah, looks like Parsons just got there before McInnes, which means that Sydney get the conversion, get the turnover. And Neild looking for something to throw to, goes for what he thinks is an option, but it's D'd immediately.
Just a brief stoppage here. Random, an errant disc from another field has just popped into the end zone, so players settle down. Get that disc out of the way.
Grimond about to pick up. He's also killing it in the stats. He's got 7 assists and 5 blocks in the tournament so far, and he rips out a big backhand, which again sails over the top to nobody. I think if both teams are going with this hucking plan, then the Cutters need to get in on the action and just start getting all of them downfield, or at least one of them. We saw no one going for that.
Yeah, it was hard to sort of see what kind of communication the thrower had with his Cutters there, but when the disc landed, two Sydney players were the closest.
And, oh, beautifully picked up. Second attempt by Blakely on Thomas's huck. Another knifey, looping throw. McNaughton got his hand there, had a nice D, but Blakely knew where to collect the scraps.
Yeah, McNaughton got a nice big chunk of that. He'll be a bit disappointed. You know, not his fault. Great effort defensively. Blakely had come down with the goal, and that's like absolute gold there. Sydney now 2, Brisbane 1. I do wonder when we're going to see a bit of junk or zone played by either of these two teams. Although, you know, Match D at the moment is generating quite a number of turnovers. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the turnovers are racking up like nobody's business. Tulip puts all of his energy into whipping out his pull, which went a distance but sailed out of bounds with that wind really coming across the field. The rain's calmed down a bit now, which is nice, and we don't have as many shoulder and elbow clutching players out there. Copland bringing the disc into play. He's got a horizontal stack ahead of him, and no co-handlers, maybe one handler. Spielman back to Copland. Copland finds his player upfield, who fails to find the next player. Turnover after some good piecing together.
Yeah, I quite like how I didn't quite catch the player who caught the disc off Copland, but that player was able to make quite a bit of ground and to an in cut. So he's obviously doing some good work, perhaps with footwork or selling a deep cut on his defender. Really great work there, able to generate some space.
Trillett and Evans just working at the back, and Evans whips another backhand out to Andrews, who didn't quite have the speed up and pulled out of that one, seeing that it was hitting the ground before he even had a chance to bid. And then gets a hand block immediately to get the Suns back on offense. Can they make it 3-1? Yes, they can!
Fast break there from Sydney, really well done. What an amazing block there, very timely. And only with perhaps a quarter or less of the field to work through, that's exactly the time when you want to be fast breaking. Beautiful round throw there, and Rob Andrews the goal. Yeah, in that previous point we saw when Chulett had the disc, you saw him really trying to get his backhand out. You know, fighting that wind, able to get your arms free and really rip that backhand. That's how most players, Chulett included, are going to get most purchases on their throw. Evans' backhand, it sat up quite nice and flat. Just the pacing on it was very challenging for Rob Andrews to run onto. Sydney here with a little jump on Brisbane. Game is not gone by any stretch of the imagination, but even in these early stages of the game, Huss, with games to 13 only, you really want to keep in touch and not let any advantage blow out. It can be so difficult to come back.
I was thinking before the game started that Brisbane might have the edge on this, but now that Sydney have made this jump amongst the back and forthing in turnovers, if it's evenly matched from here, unfortunately, I think Brisbane might have just given it up now, but I mean, it's too early to say, as Meehan swings a nice one.
Yeah, Sydney here have pulled out a zone defence. They may have transitioned here. It's hard to tell, but nope, they look like they may still be in a zone structure. Meehan and other Brisbane handlers doing a fantastic job to just keep the disc moving, but also fairly central here.
Yeah, Vern Meehan working really well at the back there. McInnes comes in to get a bit of a popping action going, and had a very good look to Taylor, but couldn't make a completed throw. It was looking like they knew and felt confident around that zone. Thomas looking back the other way, and another puck to nowhere.
Well, I was thinking, if I were Thomas, why wouldn't you pull out that flick?
Yeah, it looks like there's a pick, so maybe it was the right option, but the whole team heard the pick before he did.
Yeah, Thomas gets such a wide, gets quite a lot of distance sideways on that flick. He's a tall man, and with his wide sideways pivot, can really get quite a bit of reach with that flick, and it generally comes out quite nice and flat, even in these conditions. So we've seen a bit of a curve, but enough air to give perhaps people a chance. That time, not so much, but yep, I think he'll keep trying that.
Yeah, that was interesting. He went for it again immediately, exactly the same throw, and no one was going. I think maybe he was on a high store count, but he might have wanted to throw that to a cutter. Meehan back on the disc on the defensive end zone line, slips one, tries to squeeze it round to McInnes, but that's intercepted by Sydney Suns, who are back on offense. Kneeled. Thomas. Got a lot of mayhem up ahead, and he goes with the scuba, and it's beautifully collected, and Sydney have got 4 on the board.
Wow, the zone pays dividends, and I have to say, that's a master stroke there. What a great time to pull out the zone. Not straight away, but once you're in an advantage, they get the turn near their own end zone. A quick goal.
Yeah, Blakely quite happy to get another goal onto the stat sheet. He had 7 coming into this game, and happily going up to 8.
Yeah, Blakely has been featuring quite well and very dominantly on the stat sheets and in the fantasy tables. For the Sydney Suns, both him and Andrews are in the top 10. And the women are definitely no slouch either, with Dawson, Lee and Chung all in the top 10 in fantasy as well.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Suns, Chung is one of the rested players this game, along with Liam Haberfield for Sydney. And on the Brisbane side, we're missing Kat Smith, which is, I imagine, a big blow for Breakers. And big put there for the Breakers, and collected by Copland. That is a wonderful put. Dom coming up to try and get a dump. Copland saying very calm and casual on the outside of the end zone. And Dom straddling the line, maybe? No, she's in for the goal.
Lovely there. Copland's calmness on the edge of the end zone is exactly what Brisbane needed that.
And that was Dom Simpson's huck that got the disc up there. Not quite a double happiness, but should be really pleased with that. Sending the disc all the way down and then getting her rock on to get down there and collect the goal.
Well, it's as close as being able to catch your own huck, I would say. She sent that beautiful throw. We saw Copland in heaps of space, but it was so eminently catchable. That's exactly what you want when you've sprinted long. And then Copland's calmness, his teammates didn't crowd him either, and Simpson was able to peg it down and catch the goal.
Yeah, and Brisbane really needed that goal then, because they were starting to look like they might be out of the game, but at 2-4 they can still feel like they're in reaching distance of getting this game, winning this game, and making it to the AUL Grand Final.
Oh, it's definitely well within reach. I wonder if the Brisbane team and their coaching staff have some sneaky stuff of their own up their sleeves.
And the pool's collected by Neild, laid off to Thomas. Thomas doesn't have any players anywhere near him, so he goes for the huck, and this time there's some players underneath, but far more Breakers than Sydney players, so they get the turn. And a bit of a foul on Gucken. Grimland, apologies.
Yeah, Thomas that time for the Sun unleashing a backhand. He's obviously a player who's got big throws both sides, and that's why he's entrusted with the disc so often in that backfield.
Taylor swings it wide to Meehan. And Meehan just not being able to complete that one to McInnes again. Sydney right on the edge of the end zone. Only need one throw, maybe two to get this in. They go with one and it's dropped in the end zone by Parsons.
Yeah, good effort though. She tried to bid that second time and got close.
McNaughton digging a big swing out to Taylor. And it's Huck deep. Who's going to read this best? Oh, great effort, but just bouncing out of the hands of Grimmond.
I wonder if the wind has died down slightly here, or if both teams have just got a bit more used to it. That was a lovely throw, lots of touch, and gave the receiver quite a bit to aim for.
And Sydney speeding back in retaliation. Done a couple of 1-2s and a Huck right out in front of the speeding Dawson. And she has got Sydney their 5th point.
Amazing throw there from Blakely. Inside out flick and evaded all defensive areas. Dawson goal.
That was such a good response after Brisbane, had made a good effort to get that disc into their own attacking end zone. Sydney just went, no thank you. We'll have that straight back, got the disc moving fast, pumped it straight away, and Dawson was free as a bird.
Yeah, he's come out a little bit here, we can see, and display of exceptional skills to boot.
Sydney will want to be putting a lot of pressure on now to try and keep this hold. Come out match defense. Spillman. Vo. Simpson. And bit of strip. Alexander just coming in a bit keenly. Simpson trying to find the best option, wants a dump, goes for the up the line, and well read by Andrews.
Andrews peeling off the stack there to get that defensive block. Really well read. Obviously had, eyes up and ready to attack that space.
Evans with the big around, finds no one. Again, I think he was expecting someone to peel off and attack that corner, but nobody went. Brisbane really need to make this point work for them if they want to keep this game close, and we've got a pick which is a relief for Copland, who sent a really nice middle of the field throw out there, which was just ignored. It really is quite a nicer feeling now that the wind has dropped a bit and the rain's gone away. All the throws are a bit more open.
Brisbane players attacking strongly in.
But Copland was left with no real option, so he had to go for a longer one, which didn't quite complete with Simpson. Good defence from Sydney, keeping close to their players and making the options difficult for the Breakers. Tulit now faking hard, trying to find a little bit of space. He searches for his team.
Yep, another pick there. Sydney Suns receivers here look to be quite deep.
Yeah, so Triller opts for the dump to Evans, who rips it, sticks the deep, and everyone's kind of collided at the same time as the disc sailing out of bounds. So whether there were any fouls or not, it's beside the point. The disc
Kathleen Neal says Nope. And everyone shakes hands and disc changes possession.
Copland left with the task of getting this back into play. Similar sight to a few moments ago, but manages to find a turnover again from Vo. It's a good option, and it's retaliation immediately for Sydney, catching the goal through Deborah Lee.
Defensive tactic there for Sydney pays off. It looked like they were marking behind their players, forcing the Breakers under. They were able to make some ground, but the turnover was generated anyway, and it's one throw goal. Deb Lee, one of the 3 Sydney women in the top 10 for fantasy. We saw there her game smarts and pace led to that goal.
Yeah, and Andrews with the assist. He's got a nice spread of stats up his top. He's got, before this game, he had 5 goals, 4 assists, and 4 blocks. I like that spread. It's he's not hogging one section of the game for his team. He's an all-rounder, which I think every team wants a set of all-rounders on their team. And both of these teams do have those. But the difference will be in this game the ones that can basically make the nicest throws that are going to hit more players on the chest, rather than having your receivers flailing all over the place like we've seen so much this game.
Yeah, I wonder what the coaching staff are saying to the players now. I don't think there's a great deal between these two teams at the moment, Huss. I think what we've seen is Sydney able to capitalise perhaps just a little better on some turnovers generated near their scoring end zone. With conditions like this, or at any time, but particularly now, it's paying off for them. Brisbane Breakers have a number of really, really strong throwers here, but they are struggling a little bit to get the disc off into play and in their possession off a static start. Is there anything they can change up?
Well, I wonder why McNaughton's not picking disc up more often.
I can't tell if this is half time.
He tends to have the biggest range of throws. But they need to, again, like I said before, I think that they need to get more players behind the disc coming forward, throw the shorter throws at the start, and then they can whip out their longer throws later.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because at the same time, neither team wants to be stuck near their own defensive end zone, and having a turnover near that zone. We've seen Sydney really capitalise a number of times there.
Yeah. Going back the other way now. That ball just landed in, but rolled out. That'll be the wind's picked up again now, so that's going to be a tricky one to get off that front corner.
Well, it looks like Sydney might be pulling out their zone again.
Yeah, let's see if the Breakers can find some gaps through here, find some little ones to work their way around this 1-2 zone up the front. Nicely collected by Taylor.
Lovely waiting on the throw there from McNaughton. Taylor made sure of it with a nice safe catch.
Man with her characteristic wide pivot and bounce as she surveys the field for an option. McNaughton and Meehan passing it back between them. Finds Innes.
Sydney now have gone to match. They've transitioned. And Brisbane seem to have recognised they're doing really well, working hard. They're still in their defensive third. Getting a bit of ground here though.
Yeah, nice break up to Meehan there, and she sees McGuckin striking deep, finds him with that sweet backhand break and comes to collect the dump. She wants this goal. She wants to make the Breakers come back, but she's denied by a hand block on her hammer by Blakely. What a defensive effort.
That was pretty good. Yeah, Lyra Meehan there was wanted the hammer. She probably could see an option that she was quite keen on. Was faking it for a little while. What's happened here?
Thomas has gone for a nice break flick, which was really flat, and I think it never came back in the field. And so the Breakers are going to get this real opportunity just where Meehan lost the disc when she tried to throw that hammer. So they've got it straight back from Thomas's throw going out the side and never coming back in.
This is a very handy spot to have the disc, absolutely. Sydney here at 6 points, Brisbane 2. Brisbane will definitely want to ram this one home so that they can stay as close as possible in this first half.
Yeah, will McNaughton try and squeeze a goal straight away, or will he look to his dump to keep that disc moving? He finds his favourite dump, Meehan, who looks back to him again, and McNaughton's still looking for an option. Being patient, finds a nice break and gets that goal. The Breakers are back in this.
How did McNaughton squeeze that disc through? Take a look at this angle. He's a left-handed thrower, and it just like, how did he find a gap? That is unbelievable. We can see the excitement there.
Yeah, McNaughton's breaks are so sweet. He's got really, really long arms and really sort of flexible wrists, I feel. He manages to drop himself down really low and just dig out without much to do, without much of a backswing. He can dig out a throw like millimetres above the grass, and the defender's got no chance. He gets nice and close to them to make their mark basically futile.
Absolutely. I do love how balanced McNaughton looks when he throws. Every thrower has a different style, but what's common, I think, with all strong throwers is that they understand how their body works, their unique strengths of their body, and make it work for them.
That's right, as the Sydney Suns try and use their bodies to their best advantage. Chulett and Evans working at the back. Nice one through to Dawson. Finds Wentworth. Wentworth with a few less options, but finds another inside to Dawson, who's got an easy open up the line to Alexander. On the board.
How clean was that? We saw the diving Ziegman there. Attempted D, got close, but was that a turnover free point from Sydney?
I think it was. And that was Lee with the assist, not Dawson. Really well done there. To take the Suns into half-time, that will be a good feeling for the Suns to take that. I think they'll be feeling pretty pleased with that. A comfortable lead, despite the many turnovers from both sides. Looking at the stats, the blocks are really standing out there for Sydney. They have been getting more hands on those wayward throws and also actively intercepting more of the throws. That's the only real difference in terms of completions. Otherwise it's 68%, Brisbane 69%, Sydney is pretty close.
Yeah, not that much between the teams, as you say, in many of these stats. I want to highlight the throwing ratio there. Sydney Suns have far more throws and much more of the disc coming through the male players. That's, you know, with a game with so many attempted hucks, and we have seen Brisbane use female handlers a bit more, which accounts for that difference.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if Brisbane are maybe missing the players that are sitting out this game, which is Kat Smith and Miles McCallum. Kat Smith has been really influential, especially in the last couple of games. She's been a defensive dominator, getting blocks on. She's been matching up on male players and just getting in there and really making a difference for Brisbane. I feel like they need to find someone to fill that void for the rest of the game if they want a shot at taking this game and making the grand final.
Yep, such a smart player, Kat Smith, and we have seen her really have some eyes up play. In that first half, do you remember that poaching defensive block by Rob Andrews, peeling off the stack to intercept a pass that was down the line to a handler running into that space? I would really like to see Brisbane players play as much of that type of defence as possible. I don't think we've had Brisbane Breakers play any zone, so if they are going to stay with match, they need to disrupt Sydney's offensive flow.
Yeah, that's going to be the difference. They need to do something to get themselves back in this game and claw it back. Sydney will be feeling comfortable, but that's not necessarily the best place to be. Everyone's seen in tournaments, in leagues, in all the frisbee history that we have, strong teams who have led and then taken their foot off the pedal a little, and another similarly strong team can just slip their way back into a game with a couple of lapses in concentration. So they're going to need to keep their heads totally focused for the rest of this game. And the second half is underway with a nice big pull from Kaylin Spielman. Andrews, Tulett.
The mark there on Tulett just slightly shading towards the flick.
Tulett's stuck in his end zone here. The Brisbane Breakers defence is looking a lot better already. They've got them pinned at the back here. Will Evans squeeze out another big one. Looped over the top to Dawson. Wentworth lays it off. Wentworth didn't get a hands on that one. Turnover for Brisbane, back in the game. Spielman early to Vo. Over the top and just bounces out of the hands.
Very close there. Ziegman doing her best to get her hands on it, or perhaps she did get her hands to it, just popped out. Quite a bit of space there for Brisbane. They'll be heartened with that. That was fantastic defense earlier in the point to pin the Suns in their own end zone for quite a while. Can they do it again?
Des Tulett gets a tiny one in front of Evans, who's throwing his fakes. Looking for a Tulett again. They're relying on each other heavily here. The Brisbane defense is rampant around them. Lee finds Tulett back again in the middle of his end zone, depth-wise. Andrews coming in to help.
Looks like the Suns here are much more content to play the patient game. The disc going through many sets of hands, and they're not ready to just huck it to a space at the moment for now anyway.
Big dump back down the line. Tulett trying to find some space to dig out a backhand against a flick mark, and we've got a block from Brisbane. Just getting their hands in the zone. Could have been a Callahan, but get the job done. Ziegman. This is a great opportunity for Brisbane now. Timocles Copland picking the disc up. Keeping his casual surveillance going. Lays a nice dump out into space for Spielman. Gets it back. And a scuba over the top. Getting the Brisbane their fourth goal.
That's seriously classy play there from Brisbane. I love it. When Copland picked up the disc, here we're seeing the that excellent D and the scuba goal. When Copland picked up that disc the first time, following the change in possession, we had 4 Suns players surrounding him, but he calmly laid it off, and Brisbane were able to use that space, and Copland eventually popping it over the top. That's a fantastic goal for Brisbane, coming out after halftime break. They needed that goal, Huss.
Yeah. They needed it. They got it. I feel like they are going to make a bit of a comeback here. I'm still going to get my sudden death game, I hope.
So you see the players preparing. Now, this is essentially a semi-final, even though there's no semi-final structure here in the AUL. They are playing for a spot in the grand final. Melbourne Flames already have booked their spot. What do you think that means to each of these two teams? The prospect of a grand final place.
Well, I think that both teams will be really champing at the bit to get in that final. It's being held in Sydney, so obviously it would be a home advantage if Sydney make it, and they wouldn't have to travel very far. They'd be feeling like they'd have a comfortable go at the rematch against the Flames, whereas Brisbane will be excited to make the trip there to climates that are slightly warmer than Melbourne for them. And we've got a big bit from Neeld making Thomas's huck going up there, and a whole pack of Brisbane players underneath it, and Neeld came through, got his hand onto it, but couldn't complete that goal. It was a good effort from him, and a great effort from the defenders, making it tricky for Neeld there.
Yeah, he's such a tall guy, Neeld. He laid out fully, and really great effort to even get a hand on it, but Brisbane able to effect that turnover.
McNaughton bring the disc up. He's got a poach, bit of a zone look here from Sydney. Finds a gap immediately, and Sydney picking up the players at the front. Again, it finds a break.
Amazing catch there from Meehan.
He sticks it underneath 2 and 2, and
Brisbane come down with it.
there's a contested grab by McGuckin.
What a grab from Meehan there. I love how smart that player was as well as athletic. I can't remember who had the disc before her, but she was on the near the sideline. Meehan attacked the space directly in front of the thrower, and you know, the throw is a little bit in front of her, but amazing grab there from Meehan. Well done.
She gets another go at that huck on the contested foul at the receiving end. It was a Taylor throw that made it to Meehan.
She's just checking out where she should take the disc from. Maybe messed up a bit of that grass with that impressive layout.
Meehan started playing frisbee when she was quite young, 14 I think. She's a country girl from Creswick. Started her club career with Team Box back in 2008, and her throw is blocked, but she immediately collects it up again. What legend! And finds a great chance to get it to Taylor, but couldn't get hands around it. Diving effort, and Thomas back on the attack for the Suns. Another diving effort from Parsons. Everyone's really committed to keeping this disc up.
Safe hands from Parsons there.
Neeld gets it up through to Carmen. Safe swinging now, and there's a pickup field.
That rarely happens, does it? I mean, with the defender there getting hands, solid touch on the disc, back to bounce into Meehan's hands. One way to get onto the stat sheet again.
Yeah, and Neeld gets the disc up to Dawson. Looks off the difficult up the line. Wisely finds Parsons. Wants it back straight away, but thinks better of it and makes space. Getting into the stack. Big around from Parsons and sailing up. Catching that Neeld for the 8th goal for Sydney.
Fantastic. I love the spacing of the Sydney players in the end here. They remained calm. They kept the spaces to the side clear, and that's exactly where Neil headed. Got that goal.
Everyone looking quite comfortable now with the wind having dropped, and there's a lot of strutting, a lot of casual behaviour around the disc. I'm liking how everyone's relaxing into themselves.
Yeah, this second half so far, early days in the second half, but it's got a really different feel to the first half of this game. Both teams settling into the conditions, and that point particularly was just started with highlights. I think we could probably take another look at that later on and just have a look at all the amazing things that happened there.
Yeah, Sydney back out on defence. Brisbane on offence, looking to close that gap again. Simpson. No options upfield. Finds Copland. Copland getting a lot of the disc this game. Lays it off. Just manages to get to O'Neill with a defender breathing down her neck in Wentworth. And Simpson finds a loopy option over the top. Kath O'Neill runs it down. What a lovely look. What a lovely collection.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Simpson there clearly very willing and able to send that disc long. Kath O'Neill it was really heads up play from Kath. She checked over her shoulder. She checked over her shoulder, saw the disc was coming over the other side and was able to adjust the path of her run. Fantastic goal for Brisbane.
Yeah, and left her defender Wentworth not quite sure where the disc was coming down. It was a real looper. Wentworth didn't have it in her vision. Trying to stick close to O'Neill and got dragged a little bit to the right and didn't really have a chance to bid on that at all.
What a sensational game. I'm so enjoying this. I think all players seem to be having a lot of fun as well. Super pumped. Their skills are coming out along with the sunshine. Brisbane here 5-8. A lot to play for, as we keep mentioning, but this is for a spot in the grand final.
Yep, that grand final coming up on the 13th of October in Sydney. Get your tickets. Get them online on the Australian Ultimate League website. Get yourself down, be part of this wonderful initiative. The 6-on-6 Ultimate that's been a dream to watch with all the space on the field and 3 men, 3 women. And Sydney back on the attack. Thomas, casual flip up, collected nicely by Dawson. Up the line. Neil's got a lot of movement upfield. Needs to choose his option carefully and goes for a sneaky over the top and a huge and a catch! I can't believe that was a goal!
I cannot believe what happened in that point. I cannot believe it. So, there is a stoppage though. Plenty of hands on the disc. Dawson laid out and caught that, but there seems to be some conjecture if that is going to be
called down. After Taylor made a huge defensive bid, getting a big piece of it, but Rosie Dawson committed to making that a goal, and after a brief discussion and questioning by McInnes, it's discussed and it is definitely a goal.
You can see Sophie Taylor's big hands on the disc there, athletic and backed up with Rosie Dawson's huge layout grab.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden we see the spaces open up on the offensive field for Sydney Suns there. Drop in the wind, and also as they settle further and further into this game, when Mike Neal had the disc, the spacing was perfect from all those Sydney Suns players. He was able to pinpoint the disc into the end zone. It was only an act of exceptional athleticism by Taylor there that saw her affect the flight of it, but it was a goal anyway for the Suns.
Yeah, and I hope that Brisbane Breakers don't get disheartened by that. They should hopefully be pumped by it because, you know, although they lost that point, they were so good on D getting a bit on there, and they've, you know, gone another point down, but they've really got to remember that they're right in this and try and get those Ds from now and get back onto the game. Spielman. O'Neill. Poach in the lane, manages to get around it to Simpson. Love how the breaker's slicing through the two defenders there. That was lovely.
It's a gorgeous throw.
Love how they're just happy to take big dumps and big swings. And over the top onto the chest. Oh. Timocles Copland is sending his apologies there with his hands. It was literally a disc on his chest and he thought he had it, but it bounced off his chest after making its way through his hands. Nice break from Andrews to get around the still slightly upset maybe Copland. Another inside break, finding Evans. And another inside break that could have had two of his receivers. Finds its way to Debley. Chulett goes for a huge hammer over the top into the waiting arms of Evans. And that was a stylish goal.
Wow, it's party time here. 5-10 Sydney Suns, the Breakers. Chulett says, I want that hammer. He knows he can throw that.
Yep, and we were talking about comebacks, but I'm slightly feeling that with that sort of confidence in the offense now from Sydney and the 5-point lead, it may be out of the reach of Brisbane.
It is looking tough, isn't it? But, you know, never say never. They are 5 points down. My question is, have Brisbane displayed any X-factor plays or approaches that can disrupt Sydney? You know, previous point, or a couple of points ago, we saw a huge defensive effort from Sophie Taylor. It still resulted in a goal for Sydney. Those sorts of exceptional athletic acts aside, is there something strategically that they can change up to really make a big difference from here?
Well, they need to clamp down on their offense. They need to make sure they're getting their offensive points in. They need to be as safe as possible. The wind is not what it was, and they maybe need to recognise that and play it a bit safe. And defensively, they just need to quickly get back on Sydney as fast as they can. Meehan here, trying to work around her big mark. McInnes. Oh, and a big block! Double block, but still in the hands of Brisbane, well backed up. McNaughton gives it straight back away after such a great effort. I'm not sure if he could see his defenders there, but he threw it straight at them. Dawson, this is Sydney moving quickly after their turnovers, and Brisbane need to contain them. They've contained them now, but they're so close to the end zone. And Thomas just tosses another of his cheeky high releases over the top to Neild, and it's not a goal.
Pops it over the top and goal to Sydney. They really didn't waste any time there when they got that turnover. They thought, okay, we've got about a half or less than half the field to work. Let's go for this. Sydney look like they may have this in the bag, Huss. I'm still holding out hope for Brisbane. I think they've shown enough in this game. And Sydney haven't blinked yet, right? So they haven't displayed any real weaknesses. And it could be later in this game's progress for sure, but, you know, that's why we play sport. Anything can happen.
Yeah, it's true. Really hope for some exciting things to happen now. Perhaps we'll get a pull coming straight back over Andrew's head. Be unfortunate, but it would be good for the Breakers. He has launched that quite high, but it still carries on in its direction and makes it about halfway. Quick goal upcoming, perhaps, for Brisbane.
Yeah, I'm wondering why the Brisbane Breakers haven't thought about or haven't decided to play any zone of their own against the Sydney Suns team. Just as a sheer way of changing things up. It might have been a good, or it might be a good tactic to pull out of the bag.
Copland finds an awkward but high round, but successfully makes it. And another whip disc that didn't have enough flatness is turned straight over, and Sydney are back on the run. Chulett calming things down. Evans to Lee. Whoa, big bit on defense, but Sydney just walked past. Evans gets another goal.
Evans very dominant in this passage of the second half so far, working really hard near the disc. Deb Lee there, getting a lot of the disc as well.
Brisbane's throws just not up to scratch at the moment. They are feeling the pressure of the defence around them, and when they're trying to get their throws out, they're just not coming out how they want them to come out. They're letting too much edge up, and they're just impossible to catch.
Yes, it's the last few points have been tough for the throwers from Brisbane for sure. It is possible to still throw delightfully weighted catchable throws, and Sydney are showing that. You know, when they are getting the disc, they're punishing this Brisbane team. Brisbane here, another chance on offense.
Yeah, Brisbane has an offense, and they need to put this one away, otherwise Sydney will win the game, because it's match point for Sydney, and this could be the point that puts Sydney into the final. But let's hope that Brisbane keep the disc alive, as McNaughton pops it up to Meehan, who reads it nicely as it hovers over her head. She finds an open under. Vo faking and coming back to Meehan.
Meehan here, definitely looking very comfortable with the disc in hand. Nice throw there.
McGuckin gets it back centrally to Vo, who gives and goes, wants it back from Meehan, doesn't get it back. She finds a nice open McInnes in the middle. This is nice from Brisbane here. And big break up the line. That's a nice throw, an amazing take. And a good look to the end zone, and does she get ahead of it? No, she doesn't. Oh, Taylor, unlucky. She makes such an effort to run that awkward throw down.
Maximum effort there from Sophie Taylor. An amazing catch from Liam Grimond there. Just seemed to hang in the air for seconds.
Yeah, the huck went up to... there was a Sydney defender up there, but Grimond coming in and stealing that one. Nice catch from Parsons. This is the opportunity for Sydney to take the game, get into the final. Oh, close break. Brisbane really need to make a bid and get a block here. Sydney sailing swing. Brought down. And Rosie Dawson up the line, but just missing the outstretched arms of Thomas.
Oh, a bit of excitement there. You know, game point, potentially. Oh, it is game point for Sydney. And they would be keen for this win. But Brisbane get another chance here. And, oh, gosh, they were so close on the last possession.
Yeah, I've never seen them so agitated on a break after return. But that's what happens when you've got the match in sight. McNaughton finds Meehan. These two getting a lot of disc between them. McInnes plays it back to the ever-present Meehan. Oh, and just misses a swing opportunity. Thomas gets the block, and now once again they've got a chance to get into the zone and get this win. Carmen kneeled. Nice up break, and it's a goal, and Sydney have made it to the final. They are in. That is the game, 13-5.
Sydney make it for a home final. Wow. And again, we see Sydney getting the disc close to their own scoring end zone, and that's the difference. How many of those they get in this game, Huss?
Yeah, Thomas catching that for the victory. And it will be a Flames versus Suns final. Just like the opening showcase game, there's a rematch. What a game. We had a lot of weather in that game. We had it all. We had rain and wind, which came and went. And we had a very turnover heavy first half.
Yeah, we also had sunshine, hucks, defensive bids and blocks, and some really, really gorgeous throws. Oh, I really enjoyed that game. I thought, particularly the second half, just studded with highlights.
Yeah, no doubt Brisbane will be disappointed with that. They were, evenly matched on paper going into the game, but Sydney with a really convincing winning scoreline in the end. They'll be getting themselves prepped. They'll have a bit of a break before getting the match-up in the grand final, and they will be ready to take their son to the Burning Flames.
I can't wait to see that matchup.
Thanks for joining us.
The Australian Ultimate League is only possible thanks to the generous support of our major partners. Bendigo Private Banking Services. Visit their website bendigoprivate.com.au to help you manage all your personal or business banking needs. Discraft. The leaders in flying discs for over 25 years. Their Ultrastar is the preferred disc of all World Championship events and the Australian Ultimate League. And Zone Ultimate Custom Sports Apparel. Check out their new range of custom warm-up jackets and pants at zoneultimate.com.